welcome to the March the 8th, 1988 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie, as we bring you the history of Grand Prairie of the past and also bring you up to date on the happenings of today with these wonderful people that are with us today. This is our history tape number 63, and we're so pleased to feature the Duval family today. And we'd like to take this opportunity to welcome members of that wonderful family. And we're so pleased to have you, Juanita Duval Anderson, with us today.
What did I say?
You say you're glad to be here, aren't you?
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, I know that you are. And Jewel Duval Maples. Welcome, Jewel.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
And Jan Duval Barrett, a younger generation, but nevertheless one of the illustrious Duval descendants. We're pleased to have you with us today, bringing a historical prospect to this genealogy.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here again.
Wonderful. All right, now, were I to begin probably with the elder statesman of the Duval family, I would probably begin with Jewel. Let's begin with Jewel, shall we?
Yes, I
You think that's in
I
order?
think that's fine.
Jewel.
You don't know where my mind is going.
Oh, that's wonderful. Jewel, I know that you would be glad to tell us a little bit about your past, when you came to Grand Prairie, who your parents were, and after that I'm going to ask you a few questions about Jewel herself. Okay, would you like to do that?
I was born and never left Grand Prairie.
Oh, how marvelous. You're going to tell us the magic year you were born.
1910.
1910. Oh, that is splendid. So you'll be 78 magic years old this year, won't you?
I sure will.
You know, I'm just calculating rather well for an old lady, aren't I?
Oh,
right.
yes.
All right. And who were your parents, Jewel?
It's Jettie Mae and Gus Duval.
All right. And Jettie Mae, her maiden name was?
Barrett.
Barrett. She was a Barrett. So that is wonderful. All right. Now, were they born in Grand Prairie also, or did they come to Grand Prairie from another place?
They were born here.
You are another generation. Your parents were born here. All right. Now,
My
from
great-grandparents.
and your great-grandparents were born here. Isn't that splendid? Now, tell me this.
They were the Benoits.
They were the Vernoys, so you are of that marvelous vintage. Good. Now, tell us the members of your family, your brothers and sisters.
I have one sister.
All right, name
Mae
her.
Boyd.
Gussie Mae Duval Boyd, who is the president of the historical organization, and you let her sneak out of town today for this interview.
She's in California.
She's in California today. Well, that's wonderful. And she is your only sister.
Yes.
That's great. All right, now, tell us where you went to school, Jewel.
Grand Prairie, all my life.
Grand Prairie all your life. And you, of course, I guess attended the little red building that was on top of the hill at 202 College Street,
I sure did.
the 11th grade building.
I started.
You started
school
there.
there.
All right, now,
Had all the grades there.
all right. Now, as a Duval, where did you live growing up? Where did you live, on a farm, or did you live downtown?
I lived on a farm, but it's now Egyptian, a nice addition,
All right.
in the 1200 block of Egyptian.
All right. Did your dad have a farm there?
Yes,
And is that what he did for a living?
yes.
All right. Jewel, did you help on the farm in any way?
Well, I tried. There wasn't any boys in the family.
No boys in the family? What were some of the chores that you were privileged to do as one of the members of the family?
You name it, I did it.
Did you ever gather the eggs and do all of this kind of good stuff?
Oh, yes.
How'd you get to school, Jewel?
Well, I walked most of the time.
What was it, about a mile?
2 miles and a half.
2 miles and a half to the old Grand Prairie School.
And then Daddy would take us in a buggy
All right.
and a horse,
If that was appropriate.
if that was appropriate, if it was raining, but if it was pretty weather, we walked. Then when we got into high school, I rode a horse to
Oh,
school,
you rode a horse to school.
tied it up, and then I'd untie it and ride back home in the afternoon.
All right. Now, was there a place there for you to tie your horse there at the Grand Prairie schools?
It was behind the old Smith house across the street. there on College.
On College Street. That sounds very exciting. And going to Grand Prairie schools, tell us who your favorite teacher might be that you remember.
Oh, I loved them all.
Oh, you did. Could you name drop any of your teachers that you'd like to remember in this tape?
Well, Miss Yeager was my first teacher.
Mrs. Yeager.
Miss Virginia Height,
All right.
Miss Verena Liggett,
All right.
Mrs. Anderson, Mrs. Carter, and Mrs. Neville Hall.
Oh, how wonderful. Do you remember the principal's name? Or your
Well, when I
superintendent?
graduated, it was Mr. Zimmerman
Mr. Zimmerman.
and Mr. Gentry.
Wonderful.
That was one of the principals.
All right. And when you graduated, what,
Hudspeth was the principal, though.
the superintendent?
Superintendent.
Good. What was the magic year of your graduation?
1929.
1929, and I'm sure y'all have had all sorts of reunions, haven't you?
Yes.
Oh.
No. Come to think about it, the class of 30. I thought some of them graduated in 29. They were on my roll, but I see they were in the class of 30.
But y'all gathered and had a big time anyhow, didn't you?
I didn't get to go.
Oh, that is all right. Now, after graduating from Grand Prairie High School, did you go to work? Did you marry? Tell us what happened to
I
Jewel
went
next.
to Arlington to school, which
All
was
right.
NTAC at that time.
All right,
North
what
Texas
happened there?
Agricultural College.
All right. What were you going to study there?
Oh, I was going to be a teacher.
You were going to be a teacher, and how
But
long
that-
did you attend?
One term.
One
that
term.
wouldn't do. So
I
then
see.
I took a comptometer business course.
Okay, comptometers. That's into the office
I have
machines.
a lifetime scholarship.
Oh, that is great. With what group? You remember the?
Well, Mrs. Tommy Turk taught me
That is great.
in Dallas.
That is wonderful. All right, and after you finished your comptometry school, what did you do then? What's the next step?
Well, I worked at Sears, was my first job. We took inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, well, I guess I married.
All righty, and you're going to have to tell us the young man's name that you married and what came forth from
Vic
that.
Maples.
Vic Maples. And where did you meet Vic?
He lived across the road from us. They had a farm.
They had a
They
farm
moved
also.
They moved up in about 30, I think, from Gladewater.
Mm-hmm. From the Gladewater area. And you all married, and do you all have any children?
Have 4.
All right, would you like to name drop your 4 children?
Well, the youngest is Vicky.
All right, is she still Vicki Maples?
Yes.
All right.
And then Sherry Andrews.
Sherry Andrews.
Uh-huh.
All right.
And Mary Fowler.
Mary Fowler.
And Norma Jean White.
Norma Jean White. That is a wonderful, wonderful family. Do they all live in the Grand Prairie area?
Yes, Mary lives at Mansfield. The others live here
In Grand Prairie. We're going to let her live in Mansfield a while, and then we're going to try to get her back, aren't we?
Well, I thought they had taken it in. I don't know.
You never can tell, can you? All right, and after your family came along, did you continue working? And if so, what happened to Jewel then?
Well, honey, I've worked at so many jobs till I don't know.
All right, but when did you retire?
I retired. I worked for Plattner Clinic. We had first had a place of business in Grand Prairie.
All right.
And I've owned 3 cafes.
All right.
And then I went to work in 57 for the Plattners and worked there until I retired. They closed the clinic and when Great Southwest Hospital opened. And that was my last day.
And you have just been
I
having
haven't
fun
worked-
ever since?
Well, I stayed with Mother.
Good. And what do you do to keep busy now other than staying with Mother? Or is that a full-time job?
Well, Mother passed away.
Your mother passed away?
In 1978.
1978, you lost your mother. And then what have you done since that time?
A little bit of everything. Go to the lake.
Go to the lake and have fun, right?
Talk to the dog.
That is wonderful.
Well, one thing, you can talk to the dog and they don't talk about it.
All right, we're going to let you rest just a minute. Oh, we're going to start with Juanita now and put her under the hot lights.
Don't
here
ask
for a
me
minute.
those questions
I'm
as
not
you
gonna
did her.
ask you all of these
You hear?
questions. All right, okay. Juanita Duval Anderson, you've been very special to Grand Prairie too. And being a Duval is somewhat special. and especially today in the highlight today. Give us your parents' names, would you, and give your mother's maiden name.
My mother's maiden name was Betty Gray,
Betty Gray.
and she married Jim Duval.
Jim Duval. Okay.
And they had 4 children.
All right, name the 4 children.
There was there was Katie, Ethel, myself, and Jimmy.
And Jimmy Duval. Okay.
3 girls and a boy.
3 girls and a boy. And where did your parents come from to Grand Prairie? Were they born here like Jules?
My mother was born here.
All right, and your dad, where did he come from?
He came from Kentucky.
From Kentucky. Oh, that is splendid.
And but my mother's always lived here.
Always lived here. And what did they do for a living?
Farm.
They farmed too? Where was their farm located?
Their farm is out on 7th Street.
On 7th Street.
My mother's mother died when she was 3, and my Uncle Charlie Robinson raised her.
All right, now we're going to
She
get to
is
Uncle Charlie Robertson. How was he related to your family? Was that your mother's brother?
That was my mother's uncle.
Your mother's
My
uncle?
mother's brother.
Oh, that is.
And my mother was raised by her grandma and Uncle Charlie.
All right, and
Uncle
who was
Charlie.
the grandma?
Eliza.
Eliza Goodwin?
Good.
Uh-huh. Was it Goodwin, Jan?
Eliza Goodwin.
Mhm.
And that relates to the Goodwin
Yeah,
cabin.
that's where the
we-
cabin comes in.
Oh, where we have the cabin down in the Cottonwood Park. How splendid, and it's so nice that we would have the Duvals on today that are related to the Vernoys, the Goodwins, almost the founding fathers of Grand Prairie, Texas, when we're doing History Week this week. Isn't that exciting? All right. Now, your family, they were into farming. Did you
Yeah.
ever work on farm?
Yes.
What were your chores?
We did everything.
Oh, you
'Cause
did?
It was 3 girls.
All
See,
right.
my brother is the youngest. We chopped cotton, we picked cotton, we planted cotton, and we plowed. We just did everything like a boy would do, like it was a boy there at home.
And then you went to school, and how did you get to school? To Grand Prairie?
We walked.
You walked?
And my mother and all of her children graduated from the same school building.
Oh, they did. How marvelous.
And most all her grandchildren.
Can you tell me what year your mother maybe graduated from Grand Prairie schools?
No, I can't.
All right, that's
I
okay.
really-
Can you tell us the year you graduated?
I
from Grand-
graduated in 34.
34 was the magic year for you. All right. Can you name some of your favorite teachers?
Yeah, Maxine was my senior sponsor, Maxine Bodine.
Oh, wonderful. She's
That's
a
before her and
precious
Bodie
lady,
died.
isn't she?
I'm her and Bodie married.
All right. Okay.
And then I was a Grace Lackey. There was Lola Mae Swadley.
All right.
And some of my teachers, Eva Jo Buchanan
All right.
and Miss Sanders.
Mhm.
I was trying to name some that she didn't name.
Yes.
And Sandlin
Yes.
and Mr. Sandlin.
Mr. Sandlin, of course.
And then there, of course, C.B. Gentry was
The principal.
mhm.
Well, that's great. And your magic year of graduation, what happened to Juanita after that year?
I went to work.
Where'd you go to work? Where was your first job?
Worked in Dallas.
All right. How'd you get to Dallas?
Well, now, when I graduated from high school, my sister, the oldest girl, graduated from St. Paul Nursing School.
All right.
And I lived with her, and she went on in nursing, and I worked. I worked at Grand and Silver, still over in Dallas right now.
And what did you do for them?
I was a clerk.
You were a clerk. Oh, that's exciting, isn't it?
Yes, it
And
is.
you
I made
worked-
lots of money.
Yes. And then, can you tell us how much money you made an hour?
Oh, we made $9 a week.
$9 a week, big bucks. That's wonderful.
$9 a week.
My first job was $7.50 a week, and
Well, I worked
you
at-
were better paid than I was.
One job I worked at we made 37.5 cents an hour. We made 25 cents, and we got a raise. 37 and a half cents.
Oh, that is wonderful. And how'd you get to Dallas to work from
We
your...
rode a streetcar.
You rode a streetcar.
We always lived close to a streetcar line, and we rode a streetcar backwards and forwards to
That's
work.
one of these little electrical cars, trolley cars, isn't it? Okay, and you had a good experience doing that.
Yeah.
And how long did you stay at that in Dallas working with them and riding the trolley cars?
Let's see, I did that until I got married.
All right, now we're getting down to the nuts and bolts of this business.
Then I
All
married,
right.
and
Who did you marry?
I married a J.B. Anderson.
A J.
He was
what does the
raised-
J and the B stand for?
They don't have, they just J.B.
He's just JB. Okay.
And he was raised in around Cedar Hill and Florence Hill.
All right.
He went to Florence Hill School in Cedar Hill.
All right.
And we had 3 children.
All right. Name the 3 children.
There was Curtis and Johnny Bob and Kathy.
All right.
Johnny Bob is deceased, and I have, Curtis is in the insurance business out on the carrier. And Kathy is a registered nurse, but she's in insurance business in Carrollton.
All right. Now, your son that's in the insurance business, I know you're going to want to name drop grandchildren and things like that.
I have 2 grandchildren.
All right.
I have Lisa and Lana Anderson, and then 1 great-grandbaby.
All right. Name that one.
That is Lacey Ricketts.
All right. And do the Anderson children, are they in school here?
They're both graduated. They
They
both graduated from Grand Prairie High School.
Grand Prairie High School. That is wonderful. And what did your Mr. Anderson do for a living?
He was a fireman.
was a fireman.
Grand Prairie fireman, and he retired. You know what? I don't remember.
That's all right. You don't have to remember.
I don't remember what year he retired, but he passed away in 80.
In 1980.
But he had been retired about maybe 5 years.
All right. Now, what has Juanita been doing with herself since she lost Mr. Anderson?
Well, now, I work for Penny's. I am retired from J.C. Penney Company.
All right. What'd you do with J.C. Penney?
I work as a clerk.
Good.
And I worked for them almost about 17 years. And then after I retired in 80, I believe it's 81. I worked a while after J.B. died. And then I worked for my daughter in the insurance business. I got her, helped her start in the insurance business.
That's great.
She's in State Farm and in Carrollton. And I worked for her for about 2 years.
And commuted.
And commuted, to Carrollton.
That's a bunch. That is a sacrifice when
And
you
now
do
I've
that.
retired again. I've retired again.
Retired again. You're into the historical organization?
Yeah.
What else are you into?
I belong to the Rebecca Lodge. I'm in the Past Noble Grand Club. I belong to the historical. I had to give a thought what all I belong to. Let's see.
Do you attend any special church?
First Baptist.
First Baptist Church? Have you ever taught classes or anything there? Or
No, not in many years. I did it many years ago, but that's been a
When you had a
long
small
time. When I
family.
when my children were small, I, would teach in the classes.
Have you seen lots of good changes in Grand Prairie, Texas? in all
Yes,
these
I
years?
have. It has been a lot of changes. It was just a little bitty town, and now it's a nice-sized town.
Oh, it really is. We're going to let you rest a minute. We're going to come back, and we want to mention to Jewel, ask Jewel, we didn't give you the opportunity. Do you have grandchildren? We couldn't miss that
Yes.
opportunity. Well, you would have to name them, then we're going to talk with Jan a little bit.
Well, I have 6.
All right, name all 6 of them. Would you like to do that?
Well, Crystal has 2 girls.
Name them.
They've going to college. One of them has finished and got her degree.
What?
One's Amber. Amber is still in college, Austin College.
All right.
Crystal is the one that finished, and she worked for the Travel Bureau out here on 7th.
Good.
But she just lately moved to Sherman and took a job there.
All right.
And the other, Mary, my granddaughter, Mary has 1, and she lives in Mansfield.
All right, name her.
Kim.
That's Miss Kim. All right.
And Norma has 1 boy, Perry Deanwine. And Vicki has 2 boys. She has one by her first husband,
Name them.
David Sheffield.
All right. And her
And I'm
name?
real proud of him. He got his 2nd degree and his black belt. He's finished and he's working at LTV.
And he'll protect you, won't he? Yes.
And the least grandson is 12. I think he can protect me too.
All right.
He's large enough.
All right, and what is his name?
Tommy Lee Basham.
Tommy Lee Basham. That's a wonderful heritage, isn't it?
And I have one great-grandbaby,
All right, name that one.
Daphne.
Daphne. And what's
Barron.
Daphne? Barron. Wonderful. That is just great. Jan Barron,
Mm-hmm.
it's so wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you.
We have interviewed you before, but would you kind of name drop your parents and let us know how you're related to both of these young ladies that are here with us? Look out into your camera and do that for
Okay.
us.
Well, my dad's is James Robertson Duval, and my mother is Etta Jane Clary. Mother's family came from Hill County and lived in the Florence Hill area. And Dad has always, you know, he was born in Burt Burnett County, Wichita County, Texas, in Burt Burnett, when the oil field was, you know, the oil was booming at that time. Granddad had moved out there. And in fact, I believe he was born in a tent, wasn't he, Aunt Juanita?
That sounds.
No, he wasn't born no tent.
Well, I mean, y'all, they lived in a tent on the fields.
No, not when he was born.
Oh, okay, well,
I remember well.
okay. So I wasn't there.
Yes.
But I've seen the pictures of the tents and everything.
Yeah.
I guess that's what made me think of that. But anyway, he came back here, and he went to Grand Prairie High School, and he graduated from Grand Prairie High School, I believe in 1938, 39. Okay.
That's a good year.
And he married my mother, and they had
He married your mother, who was
Etta Jane Clary.
Clary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and where did her parents come from?
They came from Hill County,
From Hill County.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and they lived out south of town, close to Arkansas Lane and Beatty Road, out in that area. And they got married and had us.
All right, now
kids.
where did you all live, Jan? Where was your old home place?
Okay, it's still right where it is right now today. It's
All
on
right.
Northwest 7th Street, and it was right next door to grandmother and granddaddy's house, which used to be Sunnyvale Road at one time. And then before that, it was Bradshaw Road. That's what it was when Uncle Charlie lived there.
Is that what 7th Street was, or
Yes.
Egyptian where it turns?
It's 7th Street.
The 7th Street portion was the old Bradshaw
Road.
Road.
Yes. And then there's 4 of us kids. I'm the oldest, and then I have a brother, Jimmy, who lives in Arlington. I have another brother, Jack, who lives in the old home place,
Good.
the granddaddy and grandmother's old home place. And I have a sister named Judy, who lives on the other side, next door to Mom and Dad.
All right, now you didn't give us Judy's married name.
Okay, her married name is Whitwell.
Whitwell.
Mhm.
And they all live down on the old Bradshaw Road, which is
Yes.
now Northwest 7th Street. You want to tell us why that was named the Bradshaw Road, the famous family that lived up north of you there?
Well, I
Or
have an
south?
idea. It was because Mr. Bradshaw owned the land, and he had a farm up a piece from there.
And also, wasn't he one of the deputy sheriffs in this area?
Yes, and I believe he was the county commissioner also during that time. And his dad is buried. We're fixing to get into some cemetery stuff.
All right. All right, tell us a little bit about some cemetery stuff that's going on, Jan. You might as well. We're going to do this on our news show, but you've been
Okay.
involved in that because you've done a lot of research on the Goodwins. Tell us how exciting that's been with your family.
Oh, it has just been great. We didn't really know anything about them until we got to checking in, you know, and asking for records and doing a lot of research. And my Aunt Kate called me one day and said, I've got a box of stuff that I think you might be interested in. You need to come up here and look in it.
All right, now tell us where Aunt Kate is today. She was supposed to be here
Yes,
with us.
well, she's not feeling well.
All right, and she's related to which one of these young ladies right here in this room?
Well, she is Aunt Nita's sister,
All right.
and she's Jules' cousin.
All right. Wanted you to get that record
Yes.
straight for us. And you're the double second cousin
Yes,
to Aunt Kate.
Yes.
Oh, or
No,
to me.
no,
to
to
me.
Jules.
To Jewel. All right.
See, Granddaddy Duval, my granddaddy, and Jules' dad were brothers. So,
I know you're trying to mix me up, but go ahead with the genealogy.
and Jules' mother and my husband's
Father.
father were
Sister and
sister and brother.
That's wonderful.
So it
So-
kind of makes a vicious circle.
Makes you double cousins.
Really.
That's it. All right. And it's very exciting to have a family that is so ingrained into the history of Grand Prairie, Texas, that you can boast grandparents, great-grandparents, and when was the very first part of your family that came to the Grand Prairie area on either side, Jan? Do you know?
Goodwin.
Would it have been the Goodwins?
Yes, it was Grandpa Goodwin, Macajah Goodwin, in 1846.
In 1846, your first ancestor came to this area, and where did he settle?
He settled on the northwest part of Grand Prairie. He
North
settled
Watson.
toward the Watson community.
That's where he's buried.
It's good.
All along the Trinity.
All
All along
right.
the Trinity right there.
And I believe only recently that you have found your grandmother's name that was married to Mr. Goodwin. You ought to name drop that for us
Yes,
today?
her name was Elizabeth. Out at the Watson Cemetery where she is buried, the marker out there only has Mrs. Goodwin. So we got to looking and checking, and through my aunt who found a bunch of papers, it had her name, Elizabeth Goodwin, had her birthday and her death date, and plus all the children.
Are we
were
going to
just
do a
thrilled.
marker for her? I think we ought to take up a collection and do a marker for her. I think that's so appropriate that we
Yes.
finally, that you finally researched that and found all of the good things that we were lacking in many years of
Oh,
research.
yes.
All
Just
right,
thrilled.
we're going to let
She
you
was
rest
a-
a minute, Jan, because we're going to have you on the show for the newsy part of history, and also we've had you on once before. We're going to get back to Jewel. Is there anything else that you need to tell us that you want in this record that you've thought of before we leave here today? We have just about 2 more minutes.
I thought so much, honey, I don't know what to tell first. But I know that Miss Goodwin was the first white settler that was buried in the Watson Cemetery, which is the Watson Cemetery now.
At this time.
And they had to cover her with rocks. The Indians were here, you know.
Yes, yes, that's very exciting. All
And
right,
they burned
Juanita.
brush.
Juanita, is there anything else that you would like to tell on this that we've just forgotten to ask you that's very exciting about your family, and that you still live on Northwest
Yeah, I still live on Northwest.
Northwest 7th Street, which is the old Bradshaw Road?
But
That's
we
good.
walked up many a year. And we'd walk to school.
Okay. Is there any special
Uh,
preacher or any special person in your life that was very exciting? We have 1/2 minute. Anyone you want to talk about? Your mother's best friend.
My mother's best friend was Aunt Jetty.
Aunt Jetty who?
Aunt
My
Jetty.
mother.
That was her only sister. See,
Your
she
only
was
sister.
raised an orphan. I mean, you know, just Uncle Charlie raised her. And Aunt Jetty was like her only sister, only family really, you know, that was her age because Uncle Charlie. And Uncle Charlie never married because, see, he had a family. He had to raise
take care of
mother and take care of his mother.
You don't know how we appreciate y'all for being on the show and giving us good things about the Duvals. Y'all
Did you
have
know
been
that
wonderful.
North Carrier was called the Lane? My mother and them gave the land off for the original from,
North Carrier was called The Lane
yes, because we gave the road off.
for that.
Uh-huh.
I want to thank y'all for being on the show, and this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.